Imagine waking up on what seems like an ordinary morning. The streets are crowded, merchants are opening their shops, children are laughing, people are heading to work. No one knows they're living the last day of their lives. Within just a few hours, an entire city will disappear beneath thousands of tons of volcanic ash. Thousands will never make it out alive. But here's the question that changes everything. Did everyone really die? Or did history get one of its biggest stories completely wrong? What if archaeology has been hiding a different truth all along? And what if the only person taking us on this incredible journey is none other than Marvel's Loki himself, Tom Hiddleston? But unlike most documentaries, this one doesn't simply tell us what happened. It asks us to imagine what it actually felt like to live through it. And trust me, the deeper this mystery goes, the more emotional it becomes. The first thing that makes this documentary different is its presenter. Tom Hiddleston isn't simply reading facts from a script, he's completely immersed in the story. For Marvel fans, seeing him walk through ancient ruins feels strangely familiar. After all, in Loki, he literally traveled through time to Pompeii moments before Mount Vesuvius erupted. But this time, there's no TVA, no magic, no Marvel universe, only history, real history. Tom describes Pompeii as something extraordinary. He says it's one of the only places on Earth where you can truly travel back in time. And when you see the empty streets, the houses, the preserved frescoes, the bakeries, the temples, you begin to understand exactly what he means. Pompeii isn't simply an archaeological site, it's a frozen moment in history. Unlike most ancient cities that slowly disappeared over centuries, Pompeii stopped existing almost instantly. It's as if someone pressed pause on the Roman Empire. And nearly 2,000 years later, we're finally pressing play again. Most people already know the basics. Mount Vesuvius erupted in AD 79, Pompeii was buried beneath volcanic ash, thousands died, history finished, case closed. Or so we thought, because modern archaeology has started asking a fascinating question. What if some people escaped? That single question changes everything. Instead of studying how Pompeii died, researchers are now studying how people fought to survive. And that's where this documentary becomes something much bigger than a history lesson. It's no longer about ruins, it's about people, real families, real decisions. Imagine hearing strange earthquakes for days. Would you leave your home immediately? Or would you stay because everyone else stayed? Would you believe the mountain was dangerous? Or would you assume tomorrow would be just a normal day? It's easy for us to judge from the future. But for the people living beneath Mount Vesuvius, no one had ever seen anything like this before. They didn't even fully understand what a volcano was. One of the documentary's strongest moments comes when Tom shares his own story. Long before he became Loki, long before Hollywood, he visited Pompeii as a teenager. He was only 17 years old. Walking through the silent streets completely changed the way he saw history. Until then, ancient Rome existed only inside textbooks. Suddenly, history became real. He could stand inside someone's home, walk across the same stone roads, touch walls built nearly 2,000 years earlier. That visit inspired him to study classics at university, learn Latin, and eventually become an actor. It's a surprisingly personal connection. And throughout the documentary, you can tell this isn't just another job. He's genuinely fascinated by this place. That passion gives the series an emotional layer that many documentaries never achieve. But here's where things become truly interesting. Instead of interviewing experts for 3 hours, the documentary does something unexpected. It recreates ancient Pompeii, not through cheap historical reenactments, but with cinematic sets, visual effects, and dramatic performances. The city has been rebuilt in incredible detail. Bustling markets, elegant villas, busy bathhouses, blacksmith workshops, crowded streets. For a moment, you almost forget you're watching a documentary. It feels like a historical drama. Then suddenly, you're back in the present, standing beside archaeologists examining real artifacts buried beneath volcanic ash. This constant movement between past and present creates the feeling that Tom Hiddleston really is traveling through time. It's an unusual storytelling style, but it works remarkably well. Rather than trying to tell the story of an entire city, the documentary narrows its focus. Instead of thousands of victims, we follow 3 ordinary Romans. Because history isn't remembered through numbers, it's remembered through people. The first is Avianus, a teenage apprentice working in a bronze workshop. Like many young people, he's still trying to discover who he wants to become. The second is Julia Felix, one of the most successful women in Pompeii. She owns a luxurious bath complex and entertainment center. At a time when women had limited opportunities, Julia built an empire. And finally, there's a mysterious Praetorian guard discovered in nearby Herculaneum. The objects found beside him, a sword, military equipment, coins, suggest he may have spent his final moments helping others escape. 3 completely different lives, 3 different social classes, 3 different perspectives. But soon, all three will face exactly the same nightmare. This is perhaps the most haunting idea in the entire documentary. Life continues normally. People argue, children play, business owners open their shops, bread is baked, wine is poured, markets are full. No one realizes that by tomorrow, none of it will exist anymore. And that's what makes Pompeii so emotionally powerful. We know what's coming. They don't. Every ordinary conversation becomes heartbreaking. Every smile feels temporary. Every goodbye might be the last. And that's exactly what makes the first episode so compelling. It's not rushing towards the disaster. It's quietly asking a terrifying question. If you had been there, would you have recognized the warning signs, or would you have done exactly what everyone else did?
As the investigation continues, Tom Hiddleston begins asking a question that historians have debated for centuries. Could the people of Pompeii have escaped? Experts explain that Mount Vesuvius didn't erupt without warning. Small earthquakes had been shaking the region for days, but the Romans were used to earthquakes and didn't realize they were signs of something much worse. Tom follows the evidence left behind by archaeologists, examining ancient homes, workshops, and streets to understand how people reacted when disaster struck. The documentary focuses on 3 ordinary Romans, showing how each person's decisions could have changed their fate. Rather than treating them as historical names, the series imagines them as real people with families, hopes, and fears. One of the documentary's biggest strengths is how it combines science with emotion. Geologists explain how the eruption unfolded, while psychologists reveal why people often freeze or search for loved ones instead of immediately running to safety. But what happens next changes everything. The first explosion sends ash high into the sky, turning daylight into darkness. Now the city has only hours left. As Mount Vesuvius unleashes its full power, the documentary becomes far more intense. Tom Hiddleston walks through the silent ruins, while dramatic recreations show what historians believe happened during those terrifying final hours. The series explains how volcanic ash, falling rocks, and deadly pyroclastic flows trapped thousands of people before they even understood what was happening. At the same time, archaeologists present fascinating new discoveries, suggesting that not everyone perished. Ancient records reveal that some citizens may have survived and rebuilt their lives elsewhere in the Roman Empire. This completely changes the traditional story of Pompeii. Instead of seeing it only as a city that died, the documentary reminds us that some people fought, escaped, and carried their memories into the future. More than anything, the series asks us to imagine one impossible question. What would you have done? Would you stay to protect your home, or leave everything behind to save your family? By the end of the documentary, Tom Hiddleston reaches an emotional conclusion. Pompeii isn't remembered simply because a volcano erupted. It's remembered because it preserved the lives of ordinary people forever. Their homes, their belongings, their final moments, all became part of history. The documentary also reminds us that archaeology is constantly evolving. Every new excavation brings fresh evidence, meaning history isn't finished, it's still being written. Rather than giving every answer, the series encourages viewers to keep asking questions. Who survived? Who didn't? And how much of history still remains hidden beneath the ash? That's what makes Pompeii Out of Time different from a traditional documentary. It isn't just about an ancient disaster. It's about human resilience, hope, and the incredible crowd of discovering stories that were lost for nearly 2,000 years. If you enjoy historical mysteries, archaeology, or documentaries that make history feel like a Hollywood thriller, this series is definitely worth watching.